Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Tonight we will begin our presentation about historical background and the development of Islamic law in Indonesia. There will be four topics that we will discuss. The first one is Islamic law in Islamic Kingdom era. The second, Islamic law in the colonial era. Third, in early independence of Indonesia. Fourth and final, in the Reformation era. The first topic will be brought by Dian Aritanustu.
Thanks for Rehan for opportunity. Okay. Next, Rehan. Next. Okay. Before I want to tell about development Islamic law in the kingdoms era. I want to tell you about history why in Nusantara Islamic law can develop. First is in 16th century, the Malacca has fallen by Portuguese. So I want to tell you four kingdoms that influence Islamic law in Indonesia. First is Sultan of Malacca, or you can call Kingdom of Malacca. The Kingdom of Malacca was the most influenced kingdom in the entire arts pelots at the time, and the kingdom is have Islamic law. There is Pahang arts and the Malacca arts. Here in after referred to as UUM or Undang-Undang Malacca are one of the product of the Malacca kingdom. From the beginning, which in the basic rules of the kingdom, the people were a core power to be respected. For that reason, something that has been applied and become a community traditional will always be a constant informal regulation policy. At the level of its implementation, law reforms that combine Islamic law and the customary law can be seen in the practice of the Kingdom of Malacca. Maybe you heard a story about the execution of Hang Kasturi and Hang Jebat for the king and the kingdom, and the treason followed by the execution of his wife and the child. Furthermore, his body was thrown into the sea. Killing the traitor is contained in Islamic teaching, while the provision of punishment follow by killing his family and continue throwing his body into the sea are local custom. Second is Sultan of Aceh. Sultanate of Aceh. The Sultan of Aceh is one of the largest Islamic kingdom in the world after Islamic kingdom in the Turk, Egypt, and the Persia. And the Islamic law in the kingdom of Sultan of Aceh was a very advanced Islamic law at the time, which made the kingdom of Aceh get the stability of the country for a very long time. The name of Islamic law in Aceh is now as Kanun Mokota Alam, introduced by the government of Sultan Iskandar Muda, who ruled the kingdom of Aceh from 1667 until 1636. The third is Sultan of Demak. The Sultan of Demak was the first and the largest Islamic kingdom on the northern coast of Java. Demak was province diocese of the Majapahit kingdom. During the reigns of Sultan Fakah in Demak was the beginning of the enactment of Islamic Sharia in Java. For its implementation through the jurisdiction of the kingdom of Sultanate of Demak, Sultan Fatah sourced from several books of jurisprudence Mazhab Syafi'i, such as Kitab Tufah al-Muhtaj, Kitab Muhar, Kitab Taqrib, and many others. Sultan Fatah even began the implementation of Islamic Sharia in Java by compiling a major work famous with a book of Judul Muda. And the book of Islamic law in Sultan of Demak is Salokantara. Salokantara is one of the product of the Sultan of Demak. Okay, the last is Sultan of Mataram. Sultan of Mataram is an Islamic kingdom in the central Java that was established since the collapse of the Sultans of Pahang in 1582. During the Sultan Agung, his time, Sultan Agung had enough civil law as well as criminal law or kishas in the Islamic Mataram Kingdom, Sultan of Mataram, taking the foundation of its laws and the rules from the Kishas books, according to Kuncen Kraton Yogyakarta. Yogyakarta Square in the past was the field where the implementation of stoning and the cut for the thief who were found. And the Sultan of Mataram is so much more specific and able to accommodate local customary law, namely Javanese customs. Among the forms and the system of government of the Islamic kingdom in the Indonesia, which leave many characteristics in the current system of government of the Republic of Indonesia, is the Kingdom of Mataram in Java, especially characteristic in the place of the field of religion as parts of the general government. Religious position at the village are called kaum. And the High Court, maybe for now we can call Supreme Court, is named Surambi Court. And the Sultan of Malacca have book of codification. It is Adidullah. Adidullah is the law book of the Mataram Kingdom. Okay, I think enough for my presentation about the development Islamic law in kingdoms era.
Thank you, The second topic will be brought by Arif Budiman.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Rehan. Yeah, I will explain to you about the developing of Islamic law in colonial era. As we know, the Dutch colonization in the archipelago began with the presence of VOC as a Dutch trade organization, also become an extension of the Dutch government in the East Indies region in carrying out of the functions of Dutch government and law that they broke. And but the use of Dutch law to accept Dutch law got into difficulty because the indigenous population was so difficult to accept the law that was foreign to them that the VOC freed the indigenous population to carry out what they had been running. This situation is what Professor Mr. Lodewijk Willem Christian van den Berg called receptio in complexu, namely the acceptance of Islamic law as a whole by Muslims. This became known as the theory of receptio in complexu. On May 25, in 1670, the Dutch through the VOC issues the resolution there in this region, which contained the application of Islamic inheritance and marriage laws at the VOC Court for Indonesia, and this recognition of Islamic law continued even before the transfer of power from the British Empire to the Dutch Kingdom again. And after Thomas Stanford served as a governor for 5 years, and the Netherlands returned to holding power over the Dutch East Indies region. It became increasingly apparent that the Dutch were trying hard to grip the nails of their power in Indonesian territory. However, this effort encountered difficulties due to religious differences between the colonizers and the people of their colonies. By looking at the existing reality, Dutch East Indies government officials started a political intervention in religious affairs. Finally, the receptive theory emerged, which said that the law that applies to Muslims is the respective customary law, and Islamic law can apply if it has been accepted by customary law. So it is customary law that determines whether there is Islamic law. And you can see in here, in efforts to limit the implementation of Islamic law by the government of the Dutch East Indies chronologically can be seen in several decisions as follow. The first one, in the mid 19th century, the government of the Dutch East Indies implemented conscious legal politics. It is a policy that consciously wants to recognize and change the life of law in Indonesian with Dutch law. And the second one on the basis of a memorandum delivered by Mr. Scholten van Oud Harlem, the government of the Netherlands instructed the use of indigenous religions laws and institutions and customs in the event of disputes occurring between them, as long as it doesn't conflict with the generally recognized principles of propriety and justice. And this last clause then places Islamic law under the subordinate of Dutch law. And the third one is on the basis of the reception theory is used by Snow Horjont. The Dutch is Indies government in 1922 then established a commission to review the authority by religious cults in Java in examining the case of the inheritance or on the grounds that he had not been accepted by local customary law. And the last one, in 1925, changes were made to Article 13.4, Paragraph 2 of Indisch Staatsregeling, which is the same as Article 78 Regeringsreglement. Essentially, the civil case of a fellow Muslim will be resolved with an Islamic religious judge if it has been accepted by customary law and not determined otherwise by an order. Uh, so the Dutch effort to control the operationalization of Islamic law in various ways made the position of Islamic law continue to weaken until the end of Dutch East Indies power in Indonesian territory in 1942. So I think that's all for the explain for me about the developing of Islamic law in colonial era. Thank you.
The third topic will be brought by Ferdi, Ferdi Aditya Hidayat and Riyad Tora.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The history of Islamic life in Indonesia has been recognized as a cultural force, but in Islam, prevented from formulating the Indonesian nation according to the Islamic version. As a moral and cultural force, Islam recognized its existence, but not on a real political power. In the time of the old order, Islam has been given a certain place and a paradoxical configuration, especially in the world of politics. While the new order, it seems that Islam is recognized to the extent that it is a moral foundation for the development of the nation and state. The discrimination of Islam has indeed begun at the same time when the faith ideology of Indonesia will be determined, so that there are various movements and anti-government Islamic opposition due to disappointment with the establishment of state Pancasila as the basis of state of Indonesia. So, in the old order, the struggle of Islam, socialism, nationalism, and communism, after Indonesia independence was achieved, There began to be a conflict about difference and competition for independence. Some of the conflict that occurred at the same time were generally a movement that had not harmed and emerged parties, among others. Conflict between the parties 1950 until 1955, the fight in this phase was sharper marked by division between the parties due to the dissatisfaction and difference of understanding. Namely, a number of Masyumi members, led by the Wandumi Seno and Aruzi Kartowinata, broke away by establishing the Old Indonesia Islamic Union or PSII party in order to sit in the cabinet. The backup of the religious Socialist Masyumi Party with the conservative group in April 1955, Nahdlatul Ulama or NU quit Masyumi as a political party that essentially contested the position of religion ministry in the cabinet in April 1955. The PKI mendagreement the PSII as a prevention of the public view. The PKI anti-religion Bijibolan 1985-46. This ideological controversy led to the formation of two blocks, namely the formation of the basics of state between the state based on Pancasila and Islam. As we look at the situation of Muslim at the time, it's still very bad because their unity is divided. So the ideal to establish an Islamic state as the main goal, constrained by political uphill that cannot be longer contained by Islam figures. But the reality is, although Islamic parties understand differently, but when the facing anti-Islam parties, they together form a front for achievement of the main goal of the Islamic State. There was a movement called Darul Islam. Darul Islam is literally come from Arabic and Al-Islam, which is means home for a family of Islam. The word of the territory of Islam. The term Darul Islam in Indonesia is used to express movement after 1945 that sought the violently to realize the ideal of the Islamic. This violent movement that spreads Islam occurs in various regions in Indonesia.
The New Order. During the New Order, there was a relationship between political Islam, especially modernist Islam, and the government, which received support from the military authority. Islam during the New Order era was the relationship between Islam and Indonesian government in this latter era. The closeness of the government cannot be separated, such as the establishment of ICNI, Indonesian Association of Muslim Intellectuals, which is considered to facilitate access for Muslim in policymaking. The passing of the National Educational Law in 1989, which required the holding of religious lessons at all levels of education, both in public and private schools, as well as the enactment of the Religion Educational Law of 1989. Although the relationship between Islam and the government experienced ups and downs due to various dynamic conflict, Islam and the government during the New Order era needed each other and their influence on the nation's political future. From 1977 to 1985, fragmentation and reformulation. In 1977, Indonesia held a general election. Islamic parties that the support they received was minimal. However, the election in that era was considered dishonest and unfair election because the religious system of direct, general, free, and secret election was difficult to apply. In the same decade, and new Nahdlatul Ulama left the PPP, United Republican Party, and decided not to join any political parties. The reason is because NU considered PPP to treat them unfairly. Um, from 1985 to 19 1998. The relationship between Islam and the government improved because they felt that they needed each other. The government issued a joint decree from three ministers, namely the Minister of Education and Culture, Minister of Religion, and the Minister of Home Affairs. In addition, various policies were also formed, such as the Law on National Education in 1988, the Law on Religious Sports in 1989, the establishment of Indonesian Muslim Intellectual Association (ICMI) thanks to support from the government in 1990. The effectiveness of Zakat in 1991 and even up to the decree of the Directorate General of Primary and Secondary Education of the Ministry of Education and Culture concerning permits for the use of Muslim clothing jilbab to students. This result was obtained inseparable from the struggle of young Islamic intellectuals at the time. Toward the 1990s, Suharto began to show his political sympathy for Islamic political groups in addition to the things mentioned in the previous paragraph. Suharto also permitted the Islamic banking system known as Bank Muamalah and the change in the appearance of ABRI, which was previously anti-Islamic to non-anti-Islamic. The next topic will be brought by Ahmad Zulfikri.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. I will explain Islamic law in the reform of Indonesia. When the Reformation era replaced the new order, the desire to positive in Islamic law was very strong. The development of Islamic law at this time was progressing. In the real terms, Islamic law has begun to be actualized in social life. Its scope is very wide, not only civil law matters, but also in the realm of public law. In this influenced by the emergence of law on regional autonomy, the Regional Autonomous Law Indonesia was originally Law Number 22 of 1999 on regional government, which was later amended to Law Number 31 of 2004 on regional autonomy. According to the provision of this law, each region has the authority to regulate its own territory, including the field of law. At the beginning of the information, the policy direction and goals of the Indonesian people were regulated in the 1999 GBHN with the enactment of the 1999 GBHN. Islamic law has a greater firmer position to play a role as the raw material for national law. The development of post-reform national law includes their elements of legal source that have an equal and balanced position, namely customary, Western, and Islamic law. All three compete freely and democratically, not by correction. Broadly speaking, the implementation of Islamic law in various parts of Indonesia can be divided into groups, namely full enforcement and partial enforcement. The full enforcement of Islamic law can be seen in the province of Nangro Aceh Darussalam. The enforcement of this model is comprehensive because it not only determines the legal material but also structures the law enforcement against that other areas that are currently preparing as South Sulawesi or Makassar, which has established the Islamic Sharia Enforcement Committee (KPSI) and Garut District, which has established the Institute for the Study, Enforcement and Application of Islamic Sharia (LP3CL). The province Nanggo Aceh Darussalam is a leading area the implementation of Islamic law in the legal basis law number 45 of 1999 concerning the privilege of the province Nanggo Aceh Darussalam. This privilege include four things: include a the application of Islamic law in all aspects of religious life. B, the use of an educational curriculum based on Islamic law without ignoring the general curriculum. C, the inclusion customary elements in the village. government system, and the recognition of the role ulama in setting regional policy. The phenomenon of unenforced Islamic law has also penetrated other areas of Indonesia, although the pattern is different from Aceh based on the principle regional autonomy. The regional regulation with the nouns Islamic Sharia have emerged at the level 1 and level 2 regions. That are include West Sumatra Province, Perda number 11, 2001, concerning the eradication and prevention of immorality. City of Solok, Perda number 10, 2001, regarding the obligation to read the Quran for students and bridge. City Padang City Padang Pariaman Regional Regulation number 2 2004 concerning the eradication and prevention of immorality. Riau Type Governor Letter number 3 slash WM slash Act 1 2003 regarding the manufacture of Arabic nameplates. Pangkal Pinang Regional Regulation number 6 of 2006 concerning supervision and control of alcoholic beverages Regency. Bulukumba Regional Regulation number 5 2003 regarding Muslim clothing for agency employers, shops, and students, and many more. If you pay attention to all existing regulation, it can be seen that the material for Islamic Sharia regulation is not comprehensive, but only concern external issues. If group based on the rules listed in the Sharia regional regulation, the contents include the following issues: morality, management of zakat, infaq, and sadaqah, use of Muslim clothing, prohibition of circulation and sale of liquor, prohibition of prostitution, and so on. The implementation of local regulation also seems to be running in place due to the lack of attention and willingness of the Islamic community to practice them, coupled with the absence of legal witness for those who violate them. Uh, that's enough for me about Islamic law reformation. Back to moderator.
Thank you, Zulfikar. In short conclusion to our presentation, the Islamic law in Indonesia comes for terms from 14 kingdoms. And through many years, the Islamic law in Indonesia has experienced ups and downs, and only in the new order, the law is been accepted by Soeharto. And from the Reformation, the Islamic law grew stronger and influenced all of Indonesia, especially for the province of Nagaraja. Thank you for listening to the our presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.